Sunday evening, Interstate 15, westbound, somewhere past Baker, California. Thousands of cars are pointed at Los Angeles right now, all carrying the same cargo. People who left home Friday full of energy and are coming back running on almost none. Here's the number that should unsettle you. On this stretch of highway, crash data shows fatal collisions cluster hardest on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. The exact window that frames a Vegas weekend. Not because more cars are on the road, because of what's happening inside them. This is the story of the drive nobody warns you about. The one home. You've probably made this trip, or you know someone who has. Roughly 200,000 people a week travel this corridor between Southern California and Las Vegas. For almost all of them, it's routine. Boring even. But federal crash data tells a different story about the direction that matters. Weekend fatalities on this route, Friday through Sunday, account for close to 2 out of every 3 deaths recorded here. That's not a coincidence of timing, that's a pattern. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the trip home is more dangerous than the trip out. What's happening inside a tired driver's brain in the final hour before disaster, and why the emptiest part of this road is also its most lethal. Interstate 15 wasn't built for this volume. It began as a rough desert track called the Arrowhead Trail, connecting Salt Lake City to Los Angeles for the earliest automobile travelers, decades before anyone imagined Las Vegas as a weekend destination. Early drivers navigated it by painted rock markers and little else, crossing terrain that could kill an unprepared traveler in a single afternoon. What turned this stretch into a mass migration route was Las Vegas itself. As the city grew from a rail stop into a gambling capital through the middle of the 20th century, I-15 became its umbilical cord to Southern California's population centers. Engineers straightened the old trail, widened it, smoothed its grades, and gave it long, clean sight lines, built, deliberately, for speed and volume. Today it carries tens of thousands of vehicles a day across a landscape that hasn't gotten any less hostile, only better paved. Federal analysis of crash records has repeatedly placed the San Bernardino County stretch of I-15 at the very top of America's deadliest highway segments, ahead of every congested freeway in Los Angeles, Chicago, or Atlanta. Recent NHTSA data recorded roughly 80 fatal crashes on this stretch over a 3-year span alone, more than any other highway segment measured nationwide. And total fatalities on this corridor since 2023 have surpassed 100. A road through almost nothing, outperforming roads through everything. Here's where the story gets specific. Crash analysts who've studied this corridor closely have found that fatal collisions aren't just clustered on weekends, they're clustered at particular hours of particular days. Friday evening departures, Sunday evening returns. The 2 windows when the highway briefly stops being empty and starts being crowded. Think about what's converging in that Sunday window specifically. Weekend tourists who drive this road twice a year, unfamiliar with its rhythms. Local commuters who drive it daily and have stopped respecting it. Long-haul freight trucks running through on a fixed schedule, indifferent to anyone's vacation. And threaded through all of them, drivers who spent the last 48 hours in a city built explicitly to keep people awake, fed, and drinking. They all converge on the same 2 lanes in each direction, at the same high speed, across the same unforgiving desert, during the same 3-hour window, week after week. Start with fatigue, because it's the quietest killer on this list. People leave Las Vegas on a Sunday having slept badly for 2 nights, running on adrenaline and momentum, telling themselves the 4 hours home will pass quickly because they've made this drive before. Layer alcohol on top of that. Multiple studies of fatal crashes on this corridor have found that roughly 1 in 4 involved a driver who had been drinking, a figure that tracks almost exactly with a highway that functions as the on-ramp and off-ramp for one of the heaviest drinking destinations in the country. Out here, in the dark, with no patrol car visible for miles, a driver can feel invisible. That feeling strips away the last hesitation that might have kept them out of the car at all. Now add density. For most of the week, I-15 through the desert is nearly empty. Long, straight, forgiving, the kind of road that lulls a driver into holding the wheel loosely for an hour at a time. But on Sunday evenings, a flood of returning traffic can turn free-flowing 80-mile-an-hour desert highway into a sudden wall of stopped cars, cresting a hill with almost no warning. A driver who has been lulled by 2 hours of empty road, still carrying that speed, has almost no margin left when the brake lights appear out of nowhere. Some of the worst pileups on this stretch happen in exactly that gap. The sudden transition from total monotony to total panic, with nothing in between to warn them. There's a fourth ingredient that doesn't care what day it is, or how alert the driver behind the wheel happens to be: heat. Summer temperatures on the floor of the Mojave routinely climb past 110 degrees. That kind of heat is brutal on machines. A tire that's a little low, a little old, blows out on scorching pavement at freeway speed. Engines strain and overheat on the long climbs toward the mountain passes that bookend this route. And a breakdown out here isn't just an inconvenience. With services spaced dozens of miles apart and cell coverage patchy at best, a stranded vehicle in July can become a survival situation within an hour, long before help arrives. Mix all of that with the freight corridor running underneath it. This is one of the busiest trucking routes in the American West. A constant stream of loaded semis sharing lanes with vacationers who drive this road twice a year. When a fatigued passenger vehicle drifts, or a truck can't stop in time for wreckage ahead, the size difference alone decides the outcome. If you're the kind of person who wants to understand the hidden mechanics behind the everyday risks we take without thinking twice, this channel breaks down one dangerous place, system, or decision every week. Subscribe if you want to keep seeing the world this way. Here's the part that should genuinely change how you think about this drive. None of what we've described so far requires anyone to do anything dramatically wrong. No street racing, no obvious recklessness, just ordinary people doing an ordinary thing on a road engineered to erase the small cues that normally keep a driver sharp. Highway safety researchers have a specific term for what happens to attention on long, straight, featureless roads: highway hypnosis. The human brain evolved to track change, movement, contrast, threat. A road that looks visually identical for 20 minutes at a stretch gives it nothing to track. So gradually it disengages. The eyes stay open, the hands stay on the wheel. Some essential part of the driver quietly checks out and goes somewhere else. On a crowded city street, that lapse gets corrected almost instantly by something happening around you. A light changing, a horn, a pedestrian. Out in the open desert at dusk, on the tail end of a sleepless weekend, nothing corrects it. The car drifts a few feet toward the center line, uncorrected, for 1 second, then 2. At 80 miles an hour, 2 seconds is nearly 300 feet of highway traveled, with no one meaningfully driving the car. Layer darkness onto that same mechanism and it gets worse. There are almost no streetlights along most of this route. When the sun drops behind the surrounding mountains, the world shrinks to the cone of a driver's own headlights and the 2 red points ahead of them. Distances become harder to judge. A set of headlights on the wrong side of a divided median is, for a few crucial seconds, indistinguishable from headlights exactly where they belong, which is part of why wrong-way collisions are a recurring, documented pattern on undivided or poorly lit stretches of long desert highways generally, this corridor included. That's the real mechanism behind the Sunday spike. It isn't recklessness in the dramatic sense most people picture. It's the compounding of 4 ordinary things: sleep debt, alcohol, monotony, and darkness, arriving on the same highway during the same 3-hour window, week after week, year after year. Here's the cruelest part of the pattern, and the reason it keeps repeating. This road doesn't punish inattention the way a mountain highway does. A twisting road forces a tired driver to wake up immediately. A sharp curve demands attention or extracts a price right away. I-15 through the Mojave asks nothing of a driver for miles at a time. It lets you coast. It lets you fade. It removes every small demand that would otherwise keep a sleepy brain awake, and then it hands over the bill all at once, usually right at the crest of a hill, right where the weekend traffic has piled up, right at the exact moment a driver had finally stopped watching. A local who commutes this desert every day makes the drive 1,000 times and nothing happens. Every safe trip quietly teaches them the road is nothing to fear, that the warnings are for tourists, that they can push the speed a little, shorten the sleep a little, stretch the fuel a little further. The desert lets them believe that, mile after mile, for years. It's a patient teacher of a genuinely dangerous lesson, and the lesson holds, right up until the one drive where it doesn't. None of this means the drive should be avoided. Millions of people make it safely every single week. But the data points to something specific and actionable. The danger isn't evenly spread across the trip. It concentrates in a predictable window, Sunday evening, after a short sleep weekend, in fading light, at the exact hour traffic compresses. Sleeping before the return drive, not after exhaustion has already set in, is the single most protective decision available. Leaving earlier, before the Sunday evening compression begins, avoids the density trap entirely, and treating any drowsiness, even the kind that doesn't feel dangerous, as a hard stop rather than a mile to push through, interrupts the exact mechanism that turns an ordinary Sunday into a fatal one. The road hasn't changed in 100 years. What's changed is how many of us drive home across it, exhausted, every single weekend, convinced that because the highway looks easy, it is. That's the uncomfortable truth underneath every statistic in this video. The danger was never really about the road. It was about a straight line in the sun and what a tired human brain does with a straight line in the sun at the exact hour it's least equipped to notice. The desert doesn't care which direction you're driving, but if you're the one making this trip home on a Sunday evening, remember, the moment the drive starts to feel easy, that's not relief. That's the exact moment worth sitting up straight.